This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my idol. You're going to acknowledge me.
All right, everybody, welcome to the WWE Podcast for this Tuesday, July 19th, 2022. And believe it or not, less than 2 weeks until SummerSlam. It's upon us. We're more than halfway through July, and then we'll be into August. I know I give kind of a date update every time I talk, every time I do a podcast, but it's amazing. And I swear, as the older you get, the faster time goes. I know this is super just overused cliche, but you don't really understand it until you actually get older, and it just seems like it. And I don't know. The old saying of the days are long and the years are quick is about as real as it gets, especially when you have kids. Anyway, let's move into Monday Night Raw. And my goodness, it felt like at times one big infomercial for next week's Raw. And if I was in attendance for Raw this past week, I'd be a bit insulted, but yet understanding about what they're doing. And I understand that it's in Madison Square Garden, and every time they're in Madison Square Garden, even if it's not a Monday Night Raw, if it's just some plain old house show, they make a big deal out of it. And, case in point, Exhibit A is this past year at WrestleMania, during the WrestleMania build to Brock and Roman. How many times did we see Roman attack Brock Lesnar when he was facing, I forget who was it, for the WWE Championship? Forget who it was, but Roman Reigns attacks Brock and bloodies him. And, I feel like I saw that clip, which wasn't even on TV, more than I saw clips that were actually on TV. It was amazing. And they just like to make a big deal out of it. And I understand it's the world's most famous arena. It's a historic building, all that. It's wonderful. And I get it. But boy, how many times, let's take an over-under, guys. How many times next week during promos, not even counting the announcers, which are going to just drive it into the ground, how many times next week are we going to hear the phrases in promos or in interviews from wrestlers, the words MSG, Madison Square Garden, New York City? Let's take an over-under. 30? Maybe. Let's start the bidding at 30. It's going to be crazy. So maybe you can make a drinking game out of it if you wish, but I wouldn't advise doing that. You won't last more than probably 20 minutes. And so anyway, it also makes me a little bit excited because they know they're in a big city, the biggest market they have, and they know that they need to put on a good show, and they advertised next week's Raw pretty heavily. But let's talk about this Monday night, because there were some things to really sink your teeth into, and some things that really did not sit well with me, and we'll talk about that. But first, what would the opening of this show be without me shamelessly, annoyingly plugging my ad-free podcast? Because this show is, yes, ad-filled, I know, but you got to keep the lights on, and I do appreciate all the sponsors of the show. But I understand it does sometimes hinder the listening experience for all of you, and there's a way to get rid of that for just $1 a month at patreon.com/WWE podcast. You can get yourself 100% ad-free, and I'd really recommend you do that, because that way you don't have to skip through ads, or you don't have to be turned off by the show if you just aren't an ad-listening person, and I know some of you aren't. I'm not. I get it. But again, I'm appreciative for all the sponsors that we have, because that's how you grow, and I really do know that, a lot of podcasts feel the same. And so, anyway, with that said, I want to give a shout-out to our latest patrons, our newest patrons of the show, and I want to make sure, if I already gave you a shout-out, you're getting a double shout-out. David Taylor, thank you, and Sarah and Grace Dando. Boy, I hope I didn't screw that up. Dando or Dondo? I'm going to say Dando. So Sarah and Grace and David, thank you all for your patronage to the show. It is much appreciated. And if you go, by the way, guys, we have a subscription-based model there now. So if you want to go ad-free for a year, you get 10% off or 15% off. Check out the deals that are on our Patreon page. So if you are a long-term subscriber and you're of that mindset, then go ahead and do that. But it's for new subscribers only. Right now, Patreon, strangely, not by my own doing, doesn't allow people who are already on as patrons to take advantage of the deal. Don't shoot the messenger. It's Patreon who won't let me do it. Otherwise, I'd offer it. So anyway, that's where you can go for $1 a month. And of course, the tiers get higher as the benefits get better. And there's other things you can do. But for right now, guys, I appreciate it if you check that out. And on Apple Podcasts, we do have Apple Podcasts available ad-free too. Okay, so Monday Night Raw, again, let's talk about something that I want to really dig into that I liked. Let's talk about something positive right off the bat. And I know some of you are not on the Theory train yet. I get it, right? He's still maybe in your eyes viewed as the protege of Vince. He hasn't proven himself yet. He's too young, all that. He doesn't really have maybe a look that you like. Whatever it may be, I mean, it's getting undeniable that Vince may have chosen correctly here. Again, not just in storyline. Vince seemingly right now, to me, has proven, because Vince has to run things by me, as you can tell, but he has proven to the fans as a whole, I think, that we are starting to see what he sees, or what he has seen that we didn't see until he showed it to us with giving Theory an opportunity, and giving him an opportunity on the microphone for like long periods of time, multiple minutes, where they don't have to protect him and they know he'll do well on the mic. He's beyond his years of wisdom on the microphone. He's not CM Punk. He's not, MJF. He's not Paul Heyman. And he's not The Rock. He's not John Cena, just to name a few. But given his age, and given really just the general roster of people that he's working with and promo ability, he's got to be top 5 on Raw. I mean, seriously. Maybe you could make a case out of the whole roster. Active roster, not legends. I mean, think about this. I would argue that Theory is better on the microphone than Brock Lesnar. Given the age difference of 20 years, isn't that amazing? I would argue that Brock Lesnar is worse on the microphone than Theory. Not a bigger star. I'm not arguing that. But just that one element alone. And that just speaks volumes. Now, Brock isn't exactly, and has never been known as a great talker. But my point is that it seems as if Vince may have chosen right with Theory. I'm not making a total judgment call yet. There's there's a lot more work that needs to be done and shown and proven to the fans. But the poise he has on the microphone, the look he has, the youth, the guy's in his mid freaking 20s. What were you doing in your mid 20s? I know what I was doing. And that's saved for a after dark show that's not suitable for the family. I'll say that. You can probably guess what most mid-20s guys are doing, generally speaking, stereotypically. Not saying everyone, but I kind of fell into that party crowd. So my point is, the guy is ahead of himself, and I love the way he speaks on the microphone. And this past week, when he was running down AJ Styles, it was well done. I think he defeated AJ Styles on the microphone. AJ Styles is kind of hit and miss, where he trips up on his words sometimes. He stumbles a little bit. He has also, I don't think, ever been known as an excellent promo. Like, you look at him and you go, he's good. Sometimes he's really good, but he's never just jaw-dropping. That's never been AJ Styles' thing. He's always been an in-ring talker, so to speak. And, he's made a great career out of it. Of course, he's a Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. But I think on the mic, he defeated AJ Styles. Theory did. And then their match that they had was really good. I mean, what the hell did you expect from AJ Styles in Theory, other than just, you could watch this as an Iron Man match. So I think they did a really good job in this matchup. But before Theory came to the ring, he spoke about how he was going to cash in his briefcase at SummerSlam. AJ Styles interrupted him. That led to a match after with Dolph Ziggler watching from ringside. And then as the match had a very quick pace, it felt more competitive, I think, than most of the other matches on the show. Both of these guys look just awesome, I think. And, Ziggler then nailed Theory, with another super kick behind the referee's back outside the ring. This caused Theory to get counted out. And the ending wasn't great, wasn't super satisfying, but AJ Styles wins via countout. The match was really good. The ending was a little flat, but it still raised questions of what the hell is Ziggler's deal with Theory? You know, like what is happening here? Does WWE even know? Ziggler has yet to say a word. He's coming out in his suits. He hits a sweet chin music. Theory, gets stubbed for the second week in a row with no explanation. Now, Ziggler Theory, of course, is a matchup that we're all like, oh, yeah, well, duh, that's going to be fine, right? Like, based on both guys' abilities that we've seen in the ring, there's going to be zero issue for a matchup here in terms of match quality. That's not even a conversation that needs to be had. It's just more storyline, like what's going on. And that's the part that WWE oftentimes stumbles with. It's the why. Why are you doing something? What are you doing? And why are you doing it? So we will see if we get an answer. I have my doubts, but anyway, Ziggler is a babyface, I assume, and yeah. So the other thing, I didn't even mention this yet, as far as like the way Raw opened. I was very confused at the way Raw opened. It's very kind of weird. It was Titus O'Neil delivering a speech about WWE, basically trying to, I would imagine, remind the fans and, more importantly, the stockholders, shareholders, investors, and how many synonyms can I say for just investor? But just the perception to the public in general and sponsors that are watching, and network executives, everybody, that hey, Vince may be under investigation, but look at all the good stuff we do. Look at what kind of company we are. And they trust Titus to go out there, I think, and do a little bit of proactive damage control. That's what I took out of this. Raw has never opened like that. Ever. And do I think it's coincidence that with Vince under investigation, with things coming out worse and worse for Vince every time we hear a new finding in the investigation, do I think it's coincidence that you have Titus O'Neil as the global ambassador for WWE come out and remind everyone on a national stage what WWE stands for, all the good work they do, they stay out of politics and religion, all that? Is it coincidence? Hell no. Of course it's not. It's a PR move. Is it a smart PR move? I mean, it didn't hurt. I don't think it hurt. It's a little weird. But Titus coming out there and just being essentially a 5 to 7 minute infomercial for WWE was different. But when you look at it, there is no other purpose that you could string together or connect the dots to other than Vince McMahon and the ongoing investigation, where they're trying to deodorize the investigation and the stink of it. Kind of a weird analogy, but I guess it's accurate. They're trying to deodorize the whole situation by reminding people what WWE does, and look at how great we are, and a global ambassador, and we don't talk about politics and religion and all that stuff. So, I mean, Titus O'Neil, I have to say about that, I mean, off topic a little bit with Titus Worldwide, there could have been something there. Titus wasn't the most majestic man in the ring, and he may be best known for Titus World Slide. Every time I think about Titus, you can't not think of Titus World Slide and Corey Graves crying, laughing on commentary. If you don't know, I mean, you should know. Like, okay, maybe you're new to WWE, or maybe you haven't seen it, or maybe you haven't seen it in a while, and you need to go pick me up today. Well, go just YouTube Titus World Slide. It is one of the funniest unintentional moments in WWE history. It still makes me laugh. It's the most improbable thing ever to happen in WWE, where Titus didn't get hurt. It was perfectly timed, and it almost looked like he meant to do it, and then you realize he didn't in the same exact moment. It was hilarious. I think it was the greatest Royal Rumble they had in Saudi Arabia 3 years ago. Titus came out and tripped and perfectly slid under the ring, like full body, his entire body, not just partially tripped, his entire body, like he was on a slip and slide, and just right under the ring. It makes me want to watch it now with Corey Graves crying. It was perfect. Anyway, so beyond that though, I mean, Titus, on a serious note, as Lance Storm would say, if I could be serious for a minute, I think there was more to Titus than we saw. again, he wasn't a super athletic in terms of the way we would define it today inside the ring. But I think there's more to Titus than meets the eye, and not just being a global ambassador, which obviously WWE trusts him to be, and I think he does an admirable job and all that. But I think there's more to Titus than we ever saw. He got a great reaction from the audience. He's a likable guy. He looks like he's right out of GQ magazine. Obviously looks the part, but he's got a great look to him as like a champion. And I don't know, when he was doing his Titus Worldwide gimmick, there was something there, and I'm like, all right, I can get on with this. And they just took him out of in-ring competition and stuck him as a global ambassador. And they're like, well, Titus, we can fire you. And I don't know if this is the exact conversation, but that's at least perceived to me as if, hey, Titus, we're not going to really do anything with you. You might survive a couple more rounds of those firings that happen every April. So you can either, risk that, where we're not going to do anything with you, or you can be our global ambassador. Again, I'm not saying that's how it went. It just feels like that's how it went. And again, he's done, I think, a really nice job with that. And they do video packages from time to time with him, as talking with people who are being bullied or doing the anti-bullying campaign or whatever they're promoting at the time as a PR guy. And he is, but isn't that also what you want from a champion? I mean, somebody that is your champion should represent your company exactly the way Titus does. So he's got that qualification nailed down, and he looks the part. He's a good sized guy. He's a nice guy. He's all that. So I don't know. I think there was something there that I think is a ship that has sailed that I don't think will ever get back. I don't know. I've never ever talked about Titus O'Neil here, but I never had to because WWE never put him on the show. So anyway, I think it's all damage control for Vince. That's all it is. All right. So what happened after that? We got Bianca Belair and Carmella. That, again, Carmella gets a Raw Women's Championship opportunity. She has to have gotten the most Raw Women's, just not even Raw, just like generally speaking, Women's Championship matches of all time. Now, she hasn't won a lot of them, but if there's somebody out there that is compiling these statistics, Carmella has to be really close to the top of the list of people that have gotten championship matches. I mean, it seems like every time you turn around, for some reason, with no explanation, Carmella is in a championship match. Even though she's there to just enhance the champion, not to really win anything, it's still kind of remarkable how many opportunities she gets. But Lynch did also talk a little bit here, Becky Lynch, and she was on commentary. She talked a lot of trash. We had Belair ending up getting the KOD. The match was fine, and I don't think there was anything to complain about from an in-ring standpoint, other than, Carmella, in-ring, she's ahead of the Divas era wrestlers, but her personality is just a complete, I guess, adoption of unintentional adoption of the Divas era. I mean, she just feels Divas-esque. Everything about her is superficial, and I guess that's what's supposed to make us hate her, but she's a constant reminder of what the Divas used to be in the whole Divas era, but that's neither here nor there. So the match was fine. Becky Lynch was sitting at ringside again, and I think did a nice job on commentary. I will say the whole theme about trains, did somebody watch like Shining Time Station before the show? Or, just like a documentary on trains, and something just clicked in their head, and they're like, ooh, I got it. I'm going to have my entire promo about trains, and I'm going to make sure that everything I say is a train pun. It was almost like some kind of running joke after a while. Now, Becky Lynch tried to make herself out to be the little engine that could, knowing obviously that she's the exact opposite of that, and so I appreciate the references. And somebody had to make a choo-choo reference. She's the Bex Express. It was a cleverly thought out promo, but I could do a little less with the train references. After a while, it got a little much. So it was almost as if she was trying to exhaust every train pun that she has ever come up with, every train reference, and just just like vomiting it out. And so I think it was just completely overdone with the train references. Yeah, at least this, I will say, they didn't do the Strowman Express. So that whole sound effect. I was waiting for the production team to hit that train button, right? They have that like train choo choo, waiting for that. And luckily they didn't do that. So that's one positive. But I mean, I don't know. I didn't hate it, just overdone. And it felt a little scripted. And Becky Lynch is usually really good about making her promos feel not scripted. For some reason, this felt a little bit too rehearsed and too cute to come up with on the spot. So that's the one complaint. I know, again, Becky Lynch promos are normally very good. This one didn't hit well with me. Just felt too cute for me. So, all right. Bianca Belair wins. So that was good. Let's see here. Okay. So I'm reading, to be fair, and some of you don't like this. I don't know what to tell you, because people think I'm lazy and I don't really watch Raw. I just watch other people's and read other people's reviews and then try to claim them as my own. I don't do that. But right now, I have a Bleacher Report up, and they have a note that says about Titus O'Neil that his speech was good, but it would have meant more if the owner of the company was not under investigation. Well, yeah, so that's true. I'm just making sure I don't miss things, guys, because I make notes, but a lot of times these sites do a better job of capturing the full picture. So let's see here. What happened next? Rey Mysterio versus Damian Priest. So the story behind this one is actually one of interest to me, because it's one that I've been advocating for, and others on this show, and you listeners too. Listeners of this show have been advocating for this too, is wanting to see Dominic turn, having him turn, go to the dark side. And that's exactly what Damian Priest and Finn Balor were advocating for, was to have him see his dad in a new light, or a rather lack of light, and go to the dark side and dispose of his dad, and saying that you, at the end of this matchup, you will join the Judgment Day. Like, that was the hook of this matchup between Rey Mysterio and Damian Priest. And the match, well, it was fine. Again, no, there was really no bad matches here. And Rey Mysterio in the ring, I really had an appreciation for this, because Rey Mysterio is a guy that just seems to be timeless, where he just doesn't miss a step, or if he does, he covers it well, and you don't really notice that he's really like a guy that's middle-aged, beyond middle-aged. And it's really amazing how many bumps he's taken as a small man in wrestling, how many injuries, especially knee injuries, that Rey Mysterio's had throughout his career, and he's still able to perform at a level that we all expect. And nobody's looking at Rey Mysterio going, "Oh man, it's like The Undertaker, he should have retired." Nobody's saying that. It's amazing. Credit to really Rey and whatever he's doing to keep his body in a very high level, and keeping it protected for all these years to the best that he can is really amazing. So this was a matchup that, again, it wasn't bad, not really memorable. There were a few close calls. Priest was able to get the victory after his version of the Razor's Edge, and then Dominic, after the Judgment Day, Finn Balor and Damian Priest were threatening to crush the skull of Rey Mysterio with a concerto. We had Dominic try to protect his father and say, okay, I'll join. And as soon as he said he would join, they turned on him and beat him down with a chair instead. So I had no problem with this, except for, I had a problem with this only because I want to see Dominic turn. I want to see him actually turn on his dad. He would be infinitely more exciting. It would be, I can't tell you how many more times exciting it would be than seeing him cover his arms with tattoos to mask the lack of muscle mass he has on them. I think that's also kind of why Kevin Owens has done it. And this is just my observation, my opinion is the Kevin Owens and Damian Priest. Kevin Owens and Dominic aren't exactly guys that are in the typical quote-unquote wrestler shape or bodybuilder shape that Vince likes. And so when you cover it with tattoos, it masks the lack of muscle mass that you feel like you should have, or they feel maybe that Vince feels they should have. I'm not saying they're permanently marking up their body to hide who they are, but I think there is that certain, at least on some level, I think that is the case. At least even if it's 1% of the reason that they get the tattoos they do, especially Dominic, who has now covered, I think, his right arm nearly in tattoos. Now, again, I'm not saying he's not doing it because he doesn't actually want those tattoos or he has some kind of real special deep meaning for whatever's on his arm, but it's just a little suspect to me. Who cares, honestly? It's just an observation. So, again, I want to see Dominic turn. I want to see what that dark side looks like. We haven't seen it yet. He's also got, on top of it, all the problems he's got in terms of personality. He's got a very childish voice to fit his childish look. I think facial hair and just spending a year working out, eating a ton of food and bulking up, eating clean and bulking up would really, really do absolute wonders for his career. The hilarious part to this, but also the frustrating part, this is the last thing I'll say on this particular segment. After they beat down Dominic then told, I don't know, Sarah Schreiber, somebody, maybe, I don't know who it was, Kayla, that he wasn't really going to join the Judgment Day. I'm like, well, no, you were to save your dad. So don't tell us you weren't. So are you saying that you really weren't going to join the Judgment Day? What does that mean? You weren't going to do it for your dad? Well, why wouldn't you, right? He should have said, yes, I was willing to join them to save my father. Instead of saying, I wasn't really going to join them. Of course you were. Yeah, you were. That was just like, Dominic, stop. Ugh. He's just, yeah. Maybe they'll have a nice little hug makeout session next week to make themselves feel better. I don't know. All right. So let's see here. Let me look at some of the notes about this, though, from Bleacher Report. It says it's starting to feel like WWE has lost some faith it had in Dominic. He's not been wrestling on TV nearly as much as he used to. Mysterio's gear was the exact same shade of green that Nickelodeon uses for slime. I didn't notice that. Okay, sure. Moving on. Ezekiel versus Seth Rollins was next. And after appearing earlier on the KO show, Rollins ended up in a match with Ezekiel, and it was competitive. Ezekiel did end up, of course, as most baby faces do at the beginning of a match, dominated the beginning of the match, but Rollins started to take over, and then we had Rollins win. And, that's fine, as Seth Rollins should. This really is the only guy that Seth Rollins can beat. For some reason, these are the only victories that Seth Rollins is getting are against Ezekiel. That's it. For all the complaints that we have, Seth doesn't win. WWE's like, hey, yeah, he does. Yeah, he's beating Ezekiel. Yeah, Ezekiel. That's the problem. So this was the match was fine. Again, kind of fitting the trend of the night of just solid wrestling matches. No problems, no excuses, and no complaints in terms of the wrestling ability or the wrestling quality of this matchup. It was fine. I mean, that's it. And Seth Rollins wins as he should have. So, that's it. The stuff with Corey Graves always mocking Byron hasn't been funny in a long time. Especially it was noticeable during this show. I'm reading the notes. The way Seth Rollins crotched Zeke on the top turnbuckle looked legitimately painful, and the way Zeke picked Rollins up into an electric chair was an impressive bit of power. Yeah, it was. That move, Ezekiel or Elias, whoever, has definitely got a lot of strength in that body, no doubt about it. And I actually am a fan of Ezekiel. The Zeke freaks are kind of funny. I've, believe it or not, started to come around to the shaved face. It's still a little odd, but not as striking as the first time. And yeah, Corey Graves mocking Byron Saxton, it's something that to me is just like white noise. I don't even hear it anymore. For whatever reason, it's like Corey Graves is picking on his little brother but when he does pick on his little brother, Byron Saxton, quote unquote, I don't even hear it. It just is something that goes in one ear and out the other. I think that he's trying to create a dynamic between the three. He's trying to create a chemistry that Corey Graves is that guy and Byron's the moral compass of the show, doing things or talking about things that should be done that are the right thing to do and talking, all that kind of thing. He's like our moral guide, where Corey Graves does play the heel at times. He loves The Miz. He loves Carmella for obvious reasons, that kind of thing. So, I don't know. But yeah, Corey Graves just constantly mocking or picking up Byron Saxton got old like in the first 10 minutes they did it. I'm not a fan of it. So, all right. Let's see. Omas and MVP versus the Street Profits. And this was okay. The match ended in DQ after just a couple minutes. MVP tripped Dawkins and the ref saw it. Adam Pearce came out, of course, and turned it into a tag team match. But the Profits ended up winning by DQ. So while MVP did end up tripping Dawkins in his matchup prior to this, the Profits, of course, and MVP and Omas, it became a tag team match because, WWE logic, whenever it's a 2-on-1 scenario and then somebody comes out to even the odds, that's just WWE logic. But the Street Profits did end up winning this match by DQ after the Usos attacked them. And this led to Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins being taken out by Jimmy J and Omas. And this was okay. The Street Profits won, but did they really win, right? So I got to say, is anybody else tired of the predictability of somebody coming out to even the odds, or maybe somebody's at ringside in a one-on-one matchup, which in this case it was with Angelo Dawkins and Omas, and with Montez Ford on the outside and with MVP on the outside of the opposing side, if there's any kind of tomfoolery, that eventually a tag team match is coming. And then Adam Pearce comes out and makes the tag team match. I'm waiting for him to say, to somebody like, and at SummerSlam, you're going to face The Undertaker. Another famous quote by Teddy Long. If you know, you know. IYK. So, I don't really have much to say about that. I already talked about Theory versus AJ Styles. No complaints there. And, okay, so before the main event, we got Asuka, Dana Brooke, Alexa Bliss versus Nikki ASH, Tamina, and Doudrop. And about 2 minutes into the match, Tozawa appeared from under the ring and pinned Dana Brooke to win the 24/7 title. Nikki, this is just awful. Nikki pinned him to win the title, and then Bliss pinned her to win the belt, and Doudrop immediately hit a crossbody to win it for herself before Tamina super kicked her to take hit from her. Brooke rolled her up to win it back before she ran away. Even though Bliss pinned Nikki for the title, it appeared it did not stop the 6-woman tag team match. This allowed Asuka to win with an arm bar on Nikki. This was a mess and not funny at all. If they're going to give us R-Truth, this is directly from Bleacher Report. I'm quoting. Let's see if I agree. This was a mess and not funny at all. If they're going to give us R-Truth, then the 24/7 stuff needs to stop. So they gave this a grade of F. Yeah, bad. It's just bad. Now, I did say the theme of the night is wrestling, but there's always that stinker of the show. And really strangely, or maybe not so strangely, you make that call. A lot of the times, the things that are not good are the things that they try to design as comedy. Is that a coincidence? You be the judge. And this is just bad. And the 24/7 stuff, I know some of you find it funny. Some of you find it as, I need a palate cleanser. I need something to break up the show. Do you really need this? Something that should have died 1.5 years, 2 years ago? It's a corpse at this point. It's almost like we're just seeing something on a time loop. It's just the same thing over and over. And people are, single file chasing each other around the arena. The same 5 people. Everybody beats everybody most of the time with a roll up. The title means absolutely nothing. That means seriously nothing. What you buy off WWE shop has more value than that championship on television. So this is bad. And on top of it, they're putting that crap in the middle of a women's tag team match. Oh my God. All right. Then we get The Miz and Logan Paul in the main event of the show. Yeah. Now, to preview a little bit of next Monday night, Roman Reigns is going to be on Raw for the first time in 2 months because Madison Square Garden is big enough for him to appear in. And I think Logan Paul said he's going to be there next week too. So, for what the hell that's worth. But The Miz had Miz TV because that's what we do every single Monday night. I mean, that's just what we do every single Monday night. I'd like to hear the number of Monday Night Raws WWE has not had a Miz TV segment on in the last 2 years. It's got to be under like 5. But to be fair, I don't know the last time Miz TV main evented a show. So, but it was all about Logan Paul. He came out to booze, as it should. And we had The Miz put on the screen about how they should be partners and look how great we did as a team and I protected you. And he cut the clip short before he turned on Logan Paul at WrestleMania. And Logan Paul said, no. Let's play the rest of that clip. And, of course, we saw The Miz turn on Logan Paul. Now, Miz chalked it up to trying to teach Logan Paul a lesson. And we had Logan Paul try to attack The Miz, but Ciampa, who is just the master of attacking people from behind, came out to pull Logan Paul off of The Miz, and Logan Paul was able to get a couple of shots into both guys, but escape the ring. I mean, I don't know what to make of this. I know that this is about trying to get Logan Paul over as a babyface. I will say I don't think this hurt him and hurt WWE in that venture to get him to an actual babyface position. But when push comes to shove, I don't know if there's anything they can do in the next 12 days, however long it is till SummerSlam, before that event takes place, where they could get the crowd to solidly cheer for Logan Paul and boo The Miz. That's a tall task, my friend, because you're bringing in a guy that has a checkered past. He's very polarizing. Yes, he's got 23 million Instagram subscribers or whatever the hell it is. He hung with Floyd Money Mayweather. No doubt about that. All that stuff. It's all true. Great athlete. Super strong, super quick. He does kind of fit that WWE profile. Massive social media following. That's great because WWE can utilize that. That's probably made them salivate. But all that, you roll all that up, and he's not a likable guy. Just as a person, he's not very likable. When you listen to him on his podcast, you listen to him on YouTube, or when he was on Vine. Those of you know what I'm talking about with Vine. He's not likable at all. You have to try to like him, which is why I think he's great as a heel. And WWE played it very nicely at WrestleMania, and in a heel role, it fit very well. But I want to hear the reaction at SummerSlam. The reaction of The Miz versus Logan Paul. What does that sound like? It intrigues me because I really do wonder what WWE is going to do if the crowd turns on Logan Paul the second he comes out and cheers The Miz out of respect. And looking at Logan Paul as this outsider, this villain, this just, organic villain. And generally, he is extremely polarizing, as I said. So, and also the crowd that goes to these events, goes to SummerSlam, that can afford it, and that kind of thing. It's the older crowd. It's not families that go to these events. Generally speaking, it's the elder millennials like myself, or the older Gen X's that are going to these events that are, again, usually not bringing their kids, although you will see families, but much fewer families. And that generation, my generation, doesn't look favorably on Logan Paul. It's just not inherently, he's not one of our gods that we look up to and say, I want to be a social media star just like Logan Paul, right? So, anyway, I'm off the rails, but I want to hear the reaction. And this segment was okay. I was disappointed this was the main event, I have to say. But this, again, when I heard this was the main event of the show, I said, well, they pretty much promoted next week's Raw as the real Monday Night Raw of the next couple of weeks. So we do have that looking forward to that. And, Roman Reigns back. Of course, Brock Lesnar will probably be back in some capacity as well. And I'm sure Roman will bring up the last time that he was there, and he'll say, I'm seeming to remember something. The last time I was here, I remember, beating someone down and bloodying somebody. If they don't play on that, they're foolish. I'm sure next week they'll play the clip from WrestleMania season when Roman beat down Brock at Madison Square Garden. Because if you didn't know, Boy, you'll know next week. So I would imagine they bring that history up, considering that they have their final match, let's all hope, at SummerSlam. In the last man standing. You got to say it in that order. The last fight, the last time, the last match, last man standing. Something along those lines. You got to say it in the right order. Speak the company language. Drink the Kool-Aid. So, all right. Well, let's see what else happened. I think that, did that actually do it? It might have. Yeah, I'm scrolling through. I think that actually may have done it. Oh, Edge's little, presumably Edge, and his kind of, I guess, teasing even further, wrote things in quote-unquote blood of saying, I am coming to, and then it was just left blank. I would imagine the next word is SummerSlam, or, it has to be. Or, the name of the city. Where are you coming? At this point, I'm just like, boy, they must have a real plan for Edge here. Because the Judgment Day also, on top of, trying to get Damian Priest to turn to the dark side, did talk about Edge for the first time. And then, so they're trying to bring Edge's injury back into the minds of fans. As it was, 5-6 weeks ago now, it feels like, since they ousted Edge. So they're bringing you back to the fold, the audience that is, reminding you what happened so that when Edge returns, you're like, oh yeah, that's right. And I think Edge will get cheered. So, and again, I'm not a proponent of that group breaking the way they did with Edge. I think that's a big mistake, but I've said that too many times, and that'll do it for me, guys. I think that we will conclude here. I'll be back tomorrow with the mailbag, or probably Thursday. I have to say, it's difficult for me to put this out on Wednesdays. I still want you guys to get me your voicemails and emails by tomorrow, if you could, by late in the evening. I'm Eastern Standard Time, so if you get it to me 9, 10 o'clock, or I'd say 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you'll be able to get into the show. But more than likely, the show will be published on Thursday, only because Wednesdays have now been kind of earmarked for my video podcast that I do, my 1-hour video podcast that I do for the DuPont Network, so DuPontNow.com. You guys can check it out. Because I can't do 2 shows like that. I have to edit video. That takes hours. And then try to do a mailbag, which takes another 1.5 to 2 hours. There's just literally no time. So on Wednesday nights, it may be more difficult for me to publish normally. And then the mailbag may be pushed to Thursday. As you'll notice, Thursday it has been coming out more and more than Wednesday. So just a little thing that I want to let you guys know. But the mailbag's not going anywhere. Just maybe a little late. Later than it used to be in years past. So anyway, thank you guys for listening. Go ad free at patreon.com/WWE podcast for $1 a month. You can also get that $1 a month at Apple. Apple Podcast has an option for 99 cents a month or $10 for the entire year for ad free experience, which I'd really encourage. Or WWEpodcast.com. Go VIP. Use promo code Roman. Get 50% off your first month. How about that? All right. Everybody, thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. Give us a 5-star rating anywhere you can. And take care. I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show. Or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.